Okay, so there's another very quick feature, very cool feature that I'm very happy about, and we spent quite some time on making sure it works properly, is parenting. So, I mean, parenting is very simple. What parenting does, let's say you have a gun here, and we parented the same gun over here to this hand over here, the hand is parented to forearm, and so on. Obviously, if it wasn't done like this, then it would be like you will have, let's say you want to change the pose of this guy, you will have to do this manually. And when we ended up designing these mechs, I specifically wanted them to be posable because that's how we do it, right? Like that's the reason why we made those mechs, so people can go and like make different sort of action frames out of them, or even alter them, which I also will show in a second. But this parenting stuff is super cool. So our team spent a lot of time making sure every pivot point is exactly where it needs to be relative to his limbs and all that stuff. So which ideally what it does for you, you can quickly like reposition stuff, right? It's like, especially like, look, the torso, the hands are connected to the torso, so whenever like you are trying to move the whole upper body, all you need to do is this, you see, and then you're getting this like really cool. It's not a rig, actually. I don't think like rigging this stuff would be extremely painful, and then there's no way to change the stuff you have here, which I show in a second, like exactly what I mean, and you will see it right in front of your eyes. So let's like quickly do like a different pose, right? Like for example, before it was like a sort of neutral pose, but then you can like slightly rotate his torso, I don't know, slightly rotate this part, and all of a sudden you're having this guy almost like turning around, right? And then you can use like this hand a little bit like that. And look, when you press R and you press it twice, you get this free rotation that almost gives you like very nice flexibility on how you want to make things, right? So you want him to do that, and look, it works perfectly. Like let's say if we want his like him stepping a little bit forward, you can do that, and all of a sudden, like instead of like a very boring sort of T pose, you're getting like really nice dynamic action pose. Do we have parenting for this, guys? Oh, we do actually, right? So this is really good. I mean, obviously they don't match exactly the opening. I think this mech meant to be open like this, so if you don't like those two elements, you can remove them, but we felt like as a design choice this sort of reminds of a fly. And what else? Obviously this is the coolest part, I think. If you select all the limbs here, like for example, let me just select his whole hand, right? Just go with B, select his whole hand. If I just rotate it, it will be doing this. However, if I go and press dot, oops, not dots, maybe a comma, yeah, I can go and say rotate around individual origins. So what that will do, this is super awesome. This is basically like rotates all of them separately, and this allows you almost like have a rig, which is fantastic. It's like really cool. Like look, you can do stuff like this, and then you can always go back and like fix the gun, things over here, make it like this, but instead of like moving it individually, you're sort of rotating it all together. I think like it will work even better on feet, right here. Let's do it. Yeah, you can see like the feet is almost bending. You see, like you can make like boom boom boom. Yeah, it's really cool. So what happens if you select everything? That's the very funny one. You will start having this, you see. It's also really cool. I think like if you deselect the legs, actually it looks, and then obviously deselect this part, which is the main thing. Yeah, like look, now you're doing this, you see. Again, the guns, they don't work, so maybe we can just deselect the guns. So you obviously you don't bend the guns, right? So, but now look, this is pretty convincing, right? So as you rotate, it actually sort of moves the hands slightly. See, it's not just blunt rotation, it's also twisting certain elements. I think this is super cool, especially like if you turn off the overlay here, just purely, and do this. This is like really interesting, you know. And then again, just like I did before, you can always deselect some areas you don't want, because they are parented. The moment this moves, this part moves as well. So as long as you kind of, yeah, look at this, and then you have to do exactly the same sounds that I do, and then it looks really cool. But yeah, this is very cool feature. But then also what we spend a lot of time on, I guess that we haven't spent a lot of time on, but it was something I wanted specifically you guys to make sure we have it. So let's say you pose this mech, but then you go, I'm not happy with this one. I want to reset the pose, right? You just select everything, which we can see over here, and then you press Alt-R. What Alt-R does, it just resets all the rotations, and then you go back to a T-pose. Because what I want to show you next is much better if you do that in T-pose, because in T-pose you just have a better sort of, you basically have a very symmetric pose which you can use to tweak design and stuff like that. And exactly like, hold on, let me just select this area. Parenting really helps if you want to alter this design a little bit. So how do we do that? Let's just offset this from the ground. I don't know, let's say I wanted to make this part slightly smaller, and then the legs longer, right? Like, so it's sort of this weird mech. And then obviously let's go back to medium point. So let's just press S and then make like long legs. Again, some elements get stretched like this areas here, but it doesn't matter, you know, like, again, you can always go inside and fix them, just squash just exactly this area. But what is really cool, like in a matter of seconds, I was able to make this mech look completely different, right? Like, so I can do this, and then we can just move these guys over here. Let's actually remove this, like a part of your design could be something like that. Look, all of a sudden this is like a completely different mech, and the way this mech walks would be probably quite different, isn't it? Like, I can go and maybe make this stuff slightly bigger, right? So I can do this like that, and then you can move it around like that. Yeah, look, this is like really cool. So the mech we had before, it is quite different from what I have right now, isn't it? Super cool. And then, yeah, this is why whenever people say, oh, you give us this Mechs, then there's nothing else to design, blah, 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 I completely disagree. Like, what is important here is the silhouette, right? So when you, like, if you go back and swap to, let's say, to this view, and then let's go flat, and then maybe turn off the outline, and then turn off this, and then maybe we can, if we randomize the colors, now that's not exactly what we want, but again, so let's just do object, single, material, doesn't matter, but then let's turn off. So what you, as a designer, what you're looking for is this first, right? Like, you're trying to come up with a silhouette, and this parenting gives you exactly that ability. You know, this looks more like a frog, right? Because of the long legs. But then if you make torso really big, small legs, and like big arms, it will look like a gorilla or something like that. And that's why I think it's super creative. Like the silhouette stuff you can sketch out very quickly. And that's all about the ideas. That's why I appreciate that we sharing this with other artists, so they can then go from a silhouette towards this like really refined final mech. You know, having this pack will allow you not to spend time on all these rivets, bolts, and stuff like that. We already did that for you. We did great texturing as well. All you gotta do is just have those ideas, and parenting really helps to do it. And again, with the texture support that we have, at any point, if you're not happy with how the textures looks like, you can always go over here, and as I showed before in the video earlier, all you gotta do is like hook this up over here, go over here, change the color, and now you have a completely different mech. Look at this. So we went from, oh, actually let's make it white. Let's see how it looks like as a white texture. Look at that. This is more like a Gundam or something like that. Super cool. And again, you can always go and like separate some parts. Like, let's actually go ahead and like unlink this material, and then unlink this one as well. So let's just go back, click over here, and then this is all connected. Let's make it red, like Super cool. And then because this is the same material, I think we can link it. Can we link it? Link materials? Oh yeah, perfect. Look at this. And now we're having like a completely custom material and design. And then obviously this is, what is this? This is color 003, which we can go and rename to color red. And then I don't need to link the materials because I can't link this one to this one because this one is a different, has different textures, but what it has is this node that I explained earlier. So if you just swap it to color red, it only changed the gun because obviously these objects are made out of different sort of materials. So if I select, for example, frame materials and swap it to color red, and then I just have a little bit of red, which is actually much cooler than initially I thought to change the whole thing to red, but now it's not. It's just over there, right? Excuse me. This is super cool. Again, as I'm very biased because we created this, I'm I'm so happy to see this stuff. But it just shows me, like, I never done this. This is the first time I'm doing this color sort of variation. But it just shows you that, like, I'm so happy to see that the result of we spent so much time not just making models and designing things, but we also wanted to make sure when you guys pick it up, it's not just reusing our assets, but you have a fantastic flexibility and versatility to change those and to make them look like what you have in your mind, rather than just having like, hey, I'm just copying your mechs. I love this mech. We probably would call it a frog or something like that because he looks like a frog. Anyway, thank you very much, guys, and have fun.